buy much of anything here today.
And why the millennial generation is starting to give up because they can't afford to get a good job or own a house.
8 million Venezuelans voting for this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is. And people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And ignore him. And 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability.
RTD Live Talk. We are live. It is Tuesday night, 26th day of the month of February, and I'm excited to have another live talk. And so my name is Mike, the host of RTD Live Talk, Detroit's #1 late night YouTube talk show, and as always, the voice of the people. And so the goal is to give you guys a number, 1-833-LIVE-RTD, for you to call in and let me know what's going on in your world. More importantly, let's get caught up on what's happening around the world, as well as the monetary system in relation to everything from what's happening in Venezuela to we have the crypto sector. We got all types of things happening out there. So I want to find out what's on your mind. So it's more so like an open mic night type of thing to find out what's going on with you guys. So as always, any new viewers, feel free to let me know where you're watching from, either in the chat or there's a number above my head where you can call in and let your voice be heard. So with that being the case, let's find out who's tuning in thus far, and then we can get this show on the road. So we got Brando, Commando, how you doing? Scott, I'm ready, Mike. How you doing? Jara, Math, I'm glad for the live talk. Welcome. Pablo, how you guys doing? Spirit King says, Mike, apparently India attacked Pakistan. We're closer to World War III. Really? Okay. So I got to find out about that one. So we got Tyrone says, good night, Mike, from the Bronx. How you doing this evening? Yeah, man. So Spirit King, you're getting to start off on the right foot tonight. Let me actually Google that, look that up, because I was not aware. I knew there was some activity happening in that region, but I didn't know it was a full-fledged semi-war underway. So let me pull some things up here, and then I'll actually scan through them myself. So the good thing is we got people that's well-informed and well-connected. So let's find out what's happening here. I'll pull this up on the screen, give more people a chance to get in the loop. And so here we have from Vox, and this is as of today. It says a recent spike in tensions between India and Pakistan explained. So let me see here. We got some people in the street celebrating and partying and doing something. It says tensions between two nuclear-armed countries, India and Pakistan, are one of the highest points in decades and could escalate further. On Tuesday morning, India launched an airstrike on Pakistani territory, reportedly targeting a militant training facility. The airstrike was in the retaliation for a suicide bomb attack that killed dozens of Indian troops in the India-controlled part of Kashmir. It says India blamed Pakistan for the suicide attack, and Indian Prime Minister Modi vowed to, quote, avenge every tear that was shed for the victim. So, oh man, okay. So, as always, I always question everything I hear, especially when it's given to us from the mainstream news sources. And so here we have a suicide attempt that's being blamed on another country. And so automatically I just smell something that doesn't seem right. And this could be another planned diversion tactic from the outside Eastern and Western forces, deliberately to cause some issues between those two nations there, to basically divert attention off what's about to happen in Venezuela this next week or so. And so just to not sidetrack off that, but we got Juan Guaido, who's in Colombia now, and apparently the Supreme Court said that because he left illegally, he faces up to 30 or something years of prison time once he returns into the country. So I think, yeah, all this could be interconnected somehow, some way. But yeah, this is definitely not this is definitely not good news when we have Prime Minister Modi talking about revenging every tear that was shed. So that lets me know that this week there could be some serious issues brewing in that region there. The question is, here in America, whose side are we on? And so are we on Pakistan's side? Because I know we don't have the greatest relations with Pakistan, given that we've, you know, did a lot of damage in their country over the last decade plus. And India, they're on our borderline sanction list or terror watch list because of the currency situation that they've been doing over there over the last couple of years. So whose side are we on would be the good question to find out. So Spirit, man, I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, man, that's never good news to hear stuff like that. It says, what else we got here? It says, good night. We got Let's Rock. From QE to QT, it's all good. UBI for everyone. Bob the Monk. Ah, man. And so, Bob, when it comes to that UBI, Universal Basic Income, a couple months ago, I swapped out the I for an A, which I basically just, you know, substituted as saying Universal Basic Allowance. And so it looks like Bob the Monk wants an allowance from the government, huh? Or from whoever issues that next round of liquidity. It says, DH Media says, hello from Fort Lauderdale. How's you doing? Appreciate you chiming in. It says, India's army on high alert. It's never a good thing. Never a good thing. Tony, how you doing? We got Donald Muhammad says, Trump is in Vietnam. Yeah, and so he's in Vietnam now, apparently meeting with, I think it's Kim Jong-un, and they're supposed to be doing some talking and whatnot. And just the fact that, you know, he's the first president that, you know, since I've been watching and, you know, paying attention to world events, that would be willing to sit down with a person that was labeled a dictator or terrorist regime or whatever they try to label these people as. And so the fact that he's willing to sit down and talk and have some dialogue to come up with whatever it is they're talking about behind the scenes is something that I give him a thumbs up on, because any other administration, especially his counterpart, who, if she would have won, we probably would have been looking to bomb North Korea by now. So, yeah, but I'll leave that alone. It says, power destroy the MMT dreams. Monetary theory. Bob the Monk, I wouldn't say that just yet, because the MMT, that modern monetary theory, whatever, is still not dead, because that could easily be rolled out, because just on the basics of what I've gathered from it, it's basically the government has the right to just monetize as much currency as they want, and then keep it from becoming hyperinflationary, just spiking or increasing taxation along the way. So I think that's still probably something they can look at if things get to a point where it's the economy slows down completely. They're going to need some liquidity from somewhere, and I think the printing presses will be cranked up a little bit. It says, Mike, what do you think about Matt Geit's tweet? Google Matt Geit's tweet if you didn't catch that. All right, let me find out about this one. Spirit, it looks like you stay up on your news, my friend. Defense tweet against suggesting Michaelhain has girlfriends. Okay, all right, so it looks like a tweet. Let me, here's a news source here. Gives me a summary of what it was probably talking about. And so it says, Representative Matt Geit's defense tweet suggesting Michaelhain has girlfriends. And so girlfriends, it says attorney has unfaithful to his wife. Former attorney has been unfaithful to his wife, tweeting directly at Cohen, and the Republican congressman wrote, do your wife and father-in-law know about all your girlfriends? Maybe tonight would be a good time for that chat. I wonder if she'll remain faithful when you're in prison. She's about to learn a lot. Okay, so it looks like it's a little back and forth here, a little on a personal note here. And so if you're here tweeting, putting my man's business in the street like that, I would imagine that he's not the only gentleman that's in the political sphere, whether attorney or politician in general. They probably got some dirt in the closet. So not sure what brought this all about, but yet one of the things where, once again, it's more division in the political realm there. Not surprised at all. It's unfortunate that we have somebody calling them out like that, but yet, you know, if you got dirt like that, it's eventually going to come out. So, you know, nothing remains or nothing stays in the closet for long, especially if you're in the limelight. So, yeah, I'm going to leave that alone, Spirit. But I appreciate you putting us on game on that one. What else we got going on here? As always, if you guys want to speak directly or share what's on your mind, that number above my head is for you to call in. Let your voice be heard. It says, hello, I was first here. It took you long enough to say hi. My bad. Spirit, I didn't see you. It says, North Korea will never give up its nukes. It learned from other nations the consequences. Donald, I agree 100%. And, you know, I believe they have the right to remain, they have the right to protect themselves in regards to keeping themselves nuclear capable or nuclear ready, even though I don't like the idea that Kim Jong-un is painted as being a guy who can just go off the cuff and press a button anytime he wants. But I think it's more so him showing that he's not going to be pushed around, and that if it came down to having to take the last stand, because he's a part of a long family line of political dictatorship, as we would put it. So in order to keep power, I'm sure he'd be willing to push that button, as opposed to have the powers that be come in trying to spread democracy like they do everywhere else. So I'm assuming he'll be willing to defend that family lineage of him keeping power there. So Faith, how you doing? Welcome back. It says, Paul says, also Maduro said he would let him back, but would need to speak for his JD. Interesting. So let me pull that up. And so as I started this off for everybody that's tuning in, I mentioned how a possibility of what could be that false flag event or a pre-planned event that I hinted at on I think it was Thursday night's live stream or whatever. It was about is there the possibility of some type of literal false flag event or a staged event that could be the reason that the U.S. comes on, or Donald Trump comes on national television and tells the American people that it's time to go in now. We've reached the last straw with the Maduro regime, so we need to go in and bring the people peace. And so what I do believe is that with this Juan Guaido guy, why did he leave the country knowing that, according to the Supreme Court there, they mentioned that he was under country arrest, house arrest, whatever it was, to where he wasn't supposed to be leaving the country, but he left anyway. And so he left knowing that he probably has the backing of the United States government and military or whatever, to where he felt that he could leave the country and then try to work his way back in, and there'd be no consequences to that, given the fact that he violated his own country's Supreme Court decision that he was not able to leave. So I think this could be that reason why we have a situation where the U.S. looks to actually help reinforce Juan Guaido as an interim president or whatever they call him there. So here's an article here. It says Guaido, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, said could face 30-year jail term for violating travel ban, according to the Venezuelan court. And so I think by this week, I'm not sure what the time frame is of him trying to cross over, because I know that he mentioned that there was supposed to be some aid delivered this past Saturday, which of course we all know what happened to one of those trucks, from what we're told, that actually caught fire on the Colombian side. So it's good to say the Venezuelans didn't just, decide to, turn their back on some free goods and services, if that was the case. So definitely a planned, staged event, I believe. But give you an idea what's going on here. It says self-proclaimed Venezuelan interim president Juan could face a significant term in prison after his return to Venezuela from Colombia, where he traveled in defiance of the travel ban imposed earlier by the Venezuelan Supreme Court, says Deputy Judge of the Venezuelan Supreme Court, Juan Carlos told Sputnik. So it looks like because of that violation, so the question would be, which I want to ask you guys, is according to his own court ruling, could it be a Maduro-led court decision or whatnot, but does he deserve to be jailed for violating his own country's whatever? So let me know in the chat. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, I'm Terrence. I'm from...
I'm sorry. You're Terrence from where? Where you calling from, Terrence?
Cowboys that showers that ran. There's the cops.
Looks like wasn't quite sure. So if you happen to call in, please cut down or mute your microphone or the computer so we can actually hear you. So if that was a serious call, feel free to give me a call back and just mute your TV or phone, whatever you call you're listening to this channel from. So, but we'll keep the show right along, keep it moving right along. It says we got Will Edwards says Trump tax refunds are averaging 17% less. This wasn't a tax cut, but rather a deferment. We were duped once again. Will Edwards. Yeah, I haven't really looked into much or heard much about the whole tax situation. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out, other than the fact you can't really cut taxes or give people tax breaks at the same time you need more revenue to run your government, unless you plan on running a deeper deficit. So the whole, cut taxes type of thing wasn't really going to work, because how do you cut your revenue stream? How do you cut your income and expect to still do the same things you did before? So that's how I knew that something's going to be wrong with that. So it says, Spirit, let me see what it says. That worked part backwards today. Mike, what's the witness tampering witness tampering? Witness tampering. What is that all about? Let me know what that's about, Spirit. I'm not sure what you're referring to. It says, also Maduro said he would let him back in. Okay, I'm well behind the chat. It says, why doesn't U.S. attack Saudi Arabia for waging an illegal war against Yemen? Peter, good point, good question. Why is the USA actually funding and supplying all the military weaponry for the bombing and complete slaughter of the Yemenis people? Don't know. And it's a part of the idea that because of the oil, OPEC, all that situation tied in together, it has to do more so with the last remaining partnership agreement deal type things with the petrodollar system, that I believe that the U.S. is supporting Saudi Arabia militarily wise with goods and all that type of stuff. All the things is bombing the Yemenis people. And so that's our way of probably returning a favor to them, to say, hey, make sure you guys keep selling oil only in dollars, because it buys us more time. It's referring to us as the Western Hemisphere here. So I'd imagine that's all interconnected. It has to do with the oil and the agreement of the whole petrodollar system. And so what better way to support the people that is keeping the petrodollar system alive still, primarily the OPEC nations. And so that's, I guess, the trade-off for keeping the petro system alive, I guess. But, of course, I don't agree with it, but that's the system we're under, my friend. It says, if Russia allows the U.S. to attack Venezuela without retribution, will they lose all credibility? If Russia allows the U.S., so will Russia lose credibility? I don't think so, because here's the thing. If Putin decides to intervene into Venezuelan affairs directly, where he said, hey, makes it publicly known that we're sending troops, we're sending missile carriers, we're sending all that over to Venezuela region, then basically he's bringing a fight to us, because that's the same as the whole NATO situation, like NATO surrounding Russia, and in the threat of like Russia being the greatest enemy to all mankind. And so if they were to put Russian artillery and weaponry back on this side of the planet, like they had in Cuba during the Cold War, Cuba Missile Crisis situation, then I think that will be just what we refer to the Western Hemisphere actually want, to where it'd be easier for us to, accidentally shoot something down or collide with a Russian vehicle or something of that nature and escalate the war. Because as you guys can tell, I think, and this is my opinion, that the U.S. Political system, deep state, whatever name we want to give them this year, because we got all types of names for the powers that be, but yet I think they really need a war. And so I can imagine more war drums will be beating, whether it has to do with what's going to happen pretty soon in Venezuela, or this Pakistan-India situation here, because I'm sure we're going to take sides one way or another, because one of the bordering countries of those two nations there are allies with us, if we're not allies directly with one of them. So we're going to get involved. Then we have, what else is going on out here? We got Syria still. We still got stuff happening in Syria that's not even been mentioned on the mainstream news. The mainstream news will have us believe that all military people have been evacuated, but there's still what they call coalition forces there, which are all led by groups out of the U.S. So anyway, it looks like, I would imagine, especially as we get more of this recession talk of things happening around the world, and I can imagine that war is going to have to become a real probable option, just because if we get a recession, we know what's going to happen there. All markets are going to tank, and I don't think they really want that now. And so the next best thing, of course, is always war, because it's very profitable in regards to being able to escalate the debt that all countries need to go into in order to fund it. So yeah. What else we got here? It says, oh yeah, thinking the same thing, turn to renting. What else we got? It says, UCAA says, what goes up must come down. Wait for uncertainty to end and things to settle. The housing crisis has begun. Okay, so it looks like we are talking about the housing crisis or the housing slowdown. And so I've actually been reading some articles, but I decided not to even mention on them because everybody knows that the housing prices is just too high. And so let me see here. Housing slowdown is here. Okay, let me find out what's happening in the news. Click housing slowdown. What housing slowdown? It says housing shortage. Housing construction could ease. It says Philly bucks the housing slowdown. Mortgage servicing demands jumps across. What housing slowdown? Yeah, so just Googling housing slowdown, the mainstream articles or the top articles that would pop up out of 4.8 million articles would have you to believe that, as their title, what housing slowdown in the title, which lets me know that they're trying to keep this thing propped up a little bit by calming potential investors or first-time home buyers. And so here's a good article here that came out from Bloomberg, if I can pull it up here. So this looks like it might be something that might be of interest. It says Purplebricks plummets as global housing slowdown dims outlook. So Purplebricks Group FPLC failed the most on record. UK. So the UK says UK real estate agents struggle against sluggish market. So whatever happens in the UK definitely happens here in the US of A. So here's a little graph here showing that since let me see, since for the most part since summertime of last year in the UK especially, there's been a little plummeting of the real estate market there as far as the agents probably being able to unload houses. And I've also read articles about real estate in New York and California all being slashed, the 15% type of thing, because no one's buying those expensive homes. So if that's not a housing slump, I'm not sure what is. So what else is going on here? What's happening in the chat? Gold stocks are pretty cheap right now. Spider, not too familiar with them directly myself, other than a couple people I've interviewed. Don't really follow them much. It says, Mike, I think you skipped my comment. It says, copy paste. Man, guys, is a congressman that made the tweet saying before Cohen is testifying in Congress, therefore witness tampering and threatening. Okay, so Spirit, what you're saying is the tweet before that whole girlfriend situation was that's his way of threatening and tampering with the witness. So I haven't been following it much or at all for the most part. So you're bringing it to my attention for the first time. So without even going deep into it, I'd imagine that that if that response of that whole girlfriend situation is definitely is definitely tampering at the highest level. It says Powell was asked about housing. What did Mr. Jerome Powell say about that? It says, M says, Mike, do you think we're already in a recession? M, my opinion, and based upon a lot of people that I've interviewed over the last 2 years, I remember having, I think it was Michael Pinto on at the end of 2017. And he was saying that at that time, according to his measurements and how he measure different indicators, that we were definitely in a slowdown in those indexes or whatever and the things he was taking a look at. So everybody who's an economist or keeps their eyes on the markets can probably pull out one or two different measurements, whether it be the bond market, stock market, housing market, the amount of wood being sold, the amount of concrete being poured. There's so many different ways of measuring slowdown of the economy. I believe that, as always, the measuring statistics that come out from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and whatever the agency that does the reporting of the economy, the health of the economy rather, how they're always a year behind anyway. So with all this mainstream news being given now about a possible recession, I even posted an article on the rethinkingthedollar.com blog about a recession and some indicators once again from economists. And so everyone has their projections that 2019 or 2020 was a year that most mainstream economists has given us. And so if they're projecting 2020, they're basically saying that at that time, we're going to start to feel a slowdown, and probably it'll be announced late 2020 or 2021 or something like that, which lets me know that they're anticipating something that's already occurred, which is probably happening right now. So to sum it all up, I believe this slowdown that you look at in different sectors will lead to the idea that there's going to be an adjustment of the GDP, which basically says that we are in a recession now. It just hasn't become a mainstream topic to where a lot of people and investors have reacted and responded to the fear of the markets dipping again. So I think I think we're already underway with a recession just because of so much talk of a slowdown. So yes. It says some guy called Hoosie Smollett got attacked by two frozen. Okay, I don't know what that is. It says rent is outrageous. Ryan O, 100%. It says I had coworkers who rent went up over $450 in just 1 year here in California. Says they had to leave the house apartment though, but one of them just transferred to another unit, paying the $450 increase. Yeah. That's definitely inflation at its finest, which of course, housing cost of living in those measurements don't really make it into the overall CPI index the way the Fed measures it. So they would tell us that we're well below our 2% target. So it looks like going up $450 is well over 2% increase for housing alone. So yeah. And that's why, when it comes to the numbers that are given to us from mainstream news, you can't really believe any of that stuff just because they're all in favor of keeping the mainstream narrative alive that our economy is expanding. We're having all-time highs in the stock market. And, of course, President Trump, last little speech, he's taking credit for this almost 26,000 Dow Jones, of which I wonder is he going to take credit for it when it goes down, when it corrects the fair value. And so the question is, what is fair value in an overinflated market because of QE? And so we're going to find out, unfortunately, I believe. Spirit King Spring, it says, why do Americans sit back and let 5 to 6 people go to war in their names? Put the TV, CNN, MSNBC, Fox. Americans need to get in the streets before it's too late. King Spring. So from that comment there, I would assume, let me know if I'm wrong, but it looks like you're probably not in the United States of America, because that statement about hitting the streets, people here in this country are too cool, unfortunately. Most people in this country are caught up in the American fantasy. It's probably no longer a dream for most people, but the American fantasy, and they're asleep at the wheel, so they don't even know that they're being pressed in and squeezed to death as far as their livelihoods and the cost of living, just basically being their wealth. Their, as my guest last night mentioned about the economic energy. Your energy force, currency, your currency being devalued heavily and cost of living going up, which is basically same side of different sides of the same coin, basically. So most people will not be hitting the streets no time soon. I think with what's happening in France right now with the Yellow Vest movement, I could see something like that starting, but it won't be a grassroots movement. It'll be some type of agenda that's bought and paid for by some Soros type people, just like all the other. For the most part, it hasn't been last year, I don't think, but every year prior to, in the summertime and spring, there's some type of outcry of some kind where people hit the streets. But once again, I think it's one of the things, it's a diversion tactic as opposed to a real movement for change. So I don't see people hitting the streets until it's too late, and where they're forced to hit the streets because they're looking for food, survival goods, or whatever it is. So it's going to be because of some type of event that will lead to that, as opposed to people wanting to prevent some things from occurring. And so it says, Ryan O, it says a 50 basis point increase of the lows and U3 unemployment have predicted all the recessions. Ryan O, that's another good indicator. So we're at all-time lows of unemployment. And of course, whenever it happens to inch up, as you mentioned here, 50 basis points, that's the indicator of recession. And so I remember seeing a Mike Maloney graph where every recession, prior to it starting officially, it had a all-time lows of unemployment, and then it went up, and then there's a big gray bar, recession. Unemployment went high during the recession. It dropped again, all-time lows. All the presidents talking about putting people back to work as if they had anything to do with, as if presidents directly have policies that influence the amount of work people can actually go apply for and actually take on. So I don't know how presidents take credit for so much stuff as if like they actually know what the hell they're talking about. But anyway, yeah, I feel you, Ryan. I appreciate you sharing that. So that's another indicator that lets us know. So that's the indicator right there that some people are using. It says, I agree, King Spring, but people are sleeping in America is why we do things like the kind of channels. Very true, Faith. It says, how about the 90 million giving up on looking for work? They're not counted. Yeah. S, that's a good point, man. Let me actually pull it up because someone questioned that. And so we got, if it's 90 million, my question is, if it's really 90 million, that's close to, that's close to 1/3 of the population. And so are those people, of which I would probably assume 30 million or so are government assisted individuals. And so just looking at the debt clock above my head, let's look at the U.S. population is 328 million, give or take. It says U.S. workforce right now, it says 156 million, according to civilian non-farm labor force employment. And we have the official, which is total civilian non-farm employment, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is 6.5 million people. So according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they would have you think that 6.5 people are unemployed. And so it says U.S. income taxpayers actual. And so here's another graph here. It says actual unemployed. It says the total unemployed plus all marginally attached workers plus total unemployed part-time for economic reasons. So here we have 13 million people according to the U6. This is all from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And then it says self-employed is 8.8 million. And then it says people that's not in the labor force. It says adjusted for population growth. And it's defined as persons who are neither employed nor unemployed but are not in the labor force. This category includes retired persons, students, those taking care of children and family members, and others who are neither working nor seeking work. So according to the U.S. debt clock, it looked like it went down by 10 million, but still 80 million people retired or not. So that's including retirees and students and things of that nature. So that's still a good chunk of the population, whatever. And of which, out of the, what is it? How many people working? Out of the 157 is working. When it comes to tax receipts, or how the government actually gather revenue, let's see what that is looking like, because I know that's down. Let me find, where's that at out here? Tax, where's the tax receipts? Where we got monetary base, money supply, treasuries, current, U.S. trade deficit. Yeah, look at that deficit's going up. So yeah, so I know the tax receipts have gone. So people, aren't making as much because they're not paying as much taxes, or not filing, or not paying taxes. So that's an issue. 38 million are living in poverty. 27 million without insurance. 75 million are Medicaid recipients. And so the total, here's the total amount of the population. 169 million people are receiving government assistance of some kind, whether it be living in poverty, Medicaid, food stamps, Medicaid, or just without insurance in general. So 169. So now half the population is working. The other half's on government subsidies of some kind, give or take. So that's the true state of our economy there. Now you tell me how long that's sustainable, given the fact that our economy is not really all that strong at the surface. And so we'll see how people react this next official slowdown when the markets happen to tank. It said, what else we got here? It says, Janet Yellen equals there will never be a recession again. Yeah, I think Janet Yellen has changed her tune a little bit, because I see her speaking out more now and doing little press interviews and whatnot. So I think for whatever reason, Alan Greenspan is more vocal, got a new book out, so he's out there promoting his book. Paul Volcker has a new book, so he's out here doing interviews. Ben Bernanke, I'm sure, is still doing interviews and book tours. And Janet Yellen probably got a book coming out. That's why she's being so vocal right now. So the last four Fed chair people, I was going to say chairmen, but chair people, are all now becoming more vocal. And I wonder, does it have anything to do with this current administration and how he's doing things a little bit different than the typical paid spokesman usually do? So I wonder, and I would imagine, of course, it's all because the people behind the scenes, those that sit in on the board, governors of the Federal Reserve, the #1 leading central bank on the planet, they're all probably plotting and planning on how they're going to unravel this thing or let it fall in on his watch, so the American people can basically boot him out this next election and put in and probably change. Watch this. I'm gonna throw out something a little crazy. Let me know if I'm far off with this. But it looks like that Cortez young lady is getting a lot of popularity, or she's growing in popularity. But yet, I heard people mention she's too young to run for presidency. She's only, I think I saw it was about 37 or something like that. But she's too young for president. So, do you think that in ushering out Trump, give or take to Marcus, if we have a meltdown on his watch, he's going to be booted. They're going to go socialist completely. And so, do you think that the Cortez lady, Cortez is a man, Faith, that's mean. Do you think that they would look to adjust the age of the incoming president to suit or to cater towards her if she's by popularity alone requested by the public because of this new Green Deal, of which I read an article, or I saw an article. And so I'm going to show you how much it's projected to cost if this thing is actually pushed through. And last I heard, people were speaking on it. It looks like they were putting it before some houses, or put it before the board of governors or something like that to find out what was going on. But check out this, what it would cost. It says the Green Deal would cost up to $93 trillion. $93 trillion, or $600 grand per household, study says. So, in order to get everything that's been shoved into that package, because here's the thing, this Cortez lady, she did not write that New Deal. So I don't know how many pages it is, but we know how many pages, or we were told roughly. I did some news articles years ago about how thick the Affordable Care Act was, and I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, it was like several thousand pages thick, of which no political figure, no politician actually read it, but they signed it. So that lets me know that politicians, when pressured or when they get something slid their way, they might be more interested in saying yay for the new Green Deal. And so the question is, whatever this is in this package, I've heard all types of things has nothing to do with green. Like, Affordable Care Act had nothing to do with being affordable for people who work and actually have insurance. Turned out to be not so affordable for those people. But this Green New Deal, it has something about affordable housing for the poor. It has so many socialism type policies in that thing, of which it costs estimate 93. So that's on a good note. That right there will bankrupt our country hands down. It's going to destroy the economy. It's going to ruin any taste of anybody wanting a Federal Reserve note in their possession, in my opinion. But yet, once again, because no one's calling in, you're not talking to me, I'm going to talk to you tonight. So I'll get back to the chat. It says $70 trillion if you factor in unfunded liabilities like Social Security and Medicare. Blunt News, it says, if Bernie wins, kiss the USD goodbye in less than 4 years. Blunt News, that's the real deal, but I imagine that the USD, or the Federal Reserve note, is going to be not too favorable internationally anyway. And so with that being the case, I personally don't think we actually have 4 years of a valid currency that the world recognizes as a reserve currency, put it like that. So I don't think the USD or Federal Reserve note will be something that people will accept for trade much longer. But that's just me. It says 5,000 pages, I believe. Yeah, so I was going to say something like a lot more than that, but yet, once again, I'm not sure, and somebody let me know, but when the last time you actually read a 5,000 page book or a policy? And so just the fact that it was shoved through, nobody read it, that's just, I want to say what's the word? Irresponsible. That's, man, it's a word. I'm gonna leave that alone, because I want to say it's just not right. I mean, you can't force, game-changing, life-altering policies on the public without even reading the dang thing. It says, Mike, do you know why Green New Deal is the name? Because in the 1920s there was a New Deal. Yeah, I see the link between that. And even the New Deal you know, at the time was meant to, I guess, help us out of the Great Depression, but it brought in all this socialistic type of things. So we got Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. So all those promises by the government is the kind of reason why we're having, you know, issues now with all these unfunded liabilities that was just mentioned. So you take away all that government policy, you take away that New Deal that FDR decided to try to pump through and removing, and only, now think about this, the only way the New Deal could work is if they removed gold out of circulation, because there's no way they can keep gold in the people's hands and still have to be held accountable for the balancing the budget as well as just the overall monetary supply itself, because they knew they were going to have to borrow and tax and all that stuff like that. Because I want to say, I'm not sure what income tax was, but I think income tax went up as well for more so for the middle class at the end of the day, because all tax hikes are their promises being for the wealthy only, but yet it always seemed to trickle down to the middle class or the average 9-to-5 person that end up suffering the most at the end of the day. That's why every politician always run on saving the middle class, just keep them strong, right? Yeah, man. I should have moved to the U.S. to get me some of that free money. Blunt news. What country are you in, my friend? I'm curious. It says, if Trump stays in office, the USD will be safe for another 4 years. We know it's already dead, but as long as the public is too tired and too distracted, they will never question the value of a USD. Blunt news. Question. I think people will question the value of the USD pretty soon, because as you probably are aware, the Federal Reserve are really cautious with, you know, hiking rates because of the concern of the economy growing a little bit hot. And so in hopes of not deliberately spiking past that 2% interest, 2% CPI number and far shooting that 2 to 3%, they don't want the inflation to pick up, which would basically mean that people will be able to witness the lack of ability for their currency being able to purchase things. So people will find out the lack of value a lot sooner than 4 years because of what the Fed is doing now. So by them not hiking, they're basically trying to prolong this expansion, but yet they have to because of all the debt issues and all the all the other global issues is going to come back to haunt us. So anywhere it go, the value of, or the purchasing power of the Federal Reserve note is going to be impacted anyway. So that, I think, is going to be a given, in my opinion. But we have a call. Let's find out what's going on. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. This is Q from Chicago. How you doing?
I'm doing good. You say Q from Chicago?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, my friend? What's on your mind this evening?
Hey, actually, there is a... I'm sorry, you hear feedback or echo?
No, you're good. You might hear something on your end, but I hear you just fine, so go ahead and feel free to speak.
Okay, so this is actually going back to one of your earlier episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, the feedback is so bad.
I'm sorry, let me see here. Apart from... Are you watching me on a computer and on your phone, or is there anything planned from this stream on your side?
Okay, so my computer is upstairs. I'm outside.
Okay, so you're outside. Okay, so apart from just the connection, I'm not sure, but I hear you. And I apologize for the back feed, but I don't have many options over here.
All right, that's fine. Okay, so I want to talk about the Venezuela incident. I was in Japan at the time, so I didn't get to actually call you.
Mm-hmm.
I am one of those who actually defends the president's policy on this one.
Okay, so what event again? What event are you referring to?
What's just going on down in Venezuela.
Okay, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
So I understand that the viewership that you have,
mm-hmm.
they, even for myself, I really don't like war.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather have human beings live in peace and harmony. I would rather, not have violence, not have any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is this: we are in competition with other great powers.
Yeah.
And if we do not go into Venezuela, the Chinese will go in there and kick us out, and our influence in that whole region would be gone.
Mm-hmm.
The Chinese will continue to pump their cheap crap inside of our economy. And so what does that do? That leads to more business destruction. That leads to more unemployment.
Yeah.
Is this really what we want as a country? Do we really want our way of to be completely gone? Because that's exactly what's going to happen.
Right. Okay.
If we do not get down there in Venezuela and do what we need to do.
Okay. Now, I hear you 100%. And so as far as us intervening in the affairs, and so this started, it's being portrayed as having to do with the illegitimacy of Maduro being reelected. And so according to me and my knowledge of following from other alternative media sources, on not to defend or anything of that nature Maduro whatsoever, my thoughts are that apparently during the whole electoral process, there were other nations that were also there helping with the ballot counts and stuff like that to make sure it's a so-called fair and free election, even though a good portion of the population didn't vote. But what I'm gathering is whether he scammed himself back in there or legitimately won, that is the issue of another country. And if it wasn't because of the natural resources there and the idea that Maduro denounced the dollar a couple months ago, which was a signature on his death coffin, we wouldn't care about the people starving and things of that nature, because they've been starving on and off for the last couple years, according to their currency, what their currency couldn't afford. So what gives us the right to go down there and then to force our will, saying that he's illegitimate, and we're gonna choose who your real president is, and you have to accept that or else? Like, do you think that's fair though to the Venezuelan people?
So for the Venezuelan people, this is what I have to say. All right, it is. If you know this, the feedback is so terrible. So I'm sorry. I have to I'm talking and just boom.
No problem. Take your time.
So there was never a problem with what was going on down there until the Chinese got involved and until the Russians got involved.
Yeah.
Now we can look at this in the.
Hold on. Thought I'm gonna try something different. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hello?
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, that's way better. All right, so we can look at this like with the Cuban Missile Crisis. When the Cubans put their missiles up, when the Russians put their missiles up, in Cuba, we had a major problem with that.
Yeah.
And we had to go in there and we had to do something. So this is, when Maduro, the United States didn't have a problem when, the currency collapsed and nothing, what appeared, quote unquote, to the normal American, and nothing was going on down there.
Right.
But a lot was going on. And, we have to understand that because of the actions of not just Maduro, but really because of Hugo Chavez, we have a lot of problems. Now we have people flooding out of this country. It's really beginning to affect the entire region in South America. And now because we have, the currency collapse, and basically the collapse of a nation, if we can even call Venezuela a country anymore, because again, the faith in the currency is gone, the faith in the currency is gone, the faith in the government is gone, the faith in your country is gone.
Yeah.
So it's really non-existent. But now you have the Chinese, which no one really knows how much gold they really have.
Yeah.
And even the same thing with the Russians. We don't really know, the behind-the-scenes things that are going on. The only thing I can say is this. We're talking about, Brzezinski, where you got great powers going on, trying to go through and trying to, impress their will inside of other places. we have to get involved. Now, should we or should we not, or that's up to the individuals to decide. But like I said, for our way of life, for your way of life, for my mother's and father's way of life, for our corporations that are here, unfortunately, hey man, I'm former military. This is just what we got to do.
Right. And so that's the thing. Like I appreciate and respect your opinion 100% because it's one of them things where it's a tough situation because if and when we go down there, we're going to cause more destruction and more death than I would want to have on my watch if I was and if I was a man that had to sign off on that, because I know we won't go down there and just go into the pink house and remove that gentleman. We're going to drop bombs. We're going to kill so many innocent people. And then it's just the casualties of war can never be justified. The amount of lives that will be lost can never be justified, even to the point where me saying that, I'm a father, so I understand your point about our lifestyle here. But with going down there, bombing and doing whatever we will do to take over their resources and put in whatever we want to put in there, the amount of life that will lost will not really help us in the long run here, because anywhere we look at it, right, China and Russia and all the BRICS nation, all those parties are already preparing for the day that the dollar is no longer what it is. And that means when it's no longer recognized and needed and wanted globally, our lifestyle will drop dramatically anyway. And so whether it be a couple years sooner or later, I just think about the innocent lives that will be lost. And that's where it makes it hard for me to say we have the right to go in and do this. Why not utilize an international body and let them do it? Why did the U.S. have to go? That's what the biggest thing, because it's not a pure motive in them going, is my thing. But once again, I understand your point, and so I respect that completely.
That's okay, man. I understand too, man. It took a long time for me to understand the actions of war myself, man. Yeah. Like I said, me being a military veteran, I didn't understand what was going on in Iraq. And did I particularly like it? No, I didn't like it. But I understand, what is going on. I understood. It took, it took, and still, it takes a long time. Yeah. Like I said, man, I agree with you. I agree with you guys and most of the viewership. Look, I don't particularly care to have a war going on, but on a competition level, this is just what plays out. So, we're gonna, people are gonna die. People are gonna, it's unfortunate. It happens, but we're human beings, and this is what we do. This is competition on a human being level, and this is how we compete.
Yeah, I agree, man.
But anyway, moving on from that, there's one other question I have for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I know you're a currency collector. I have some currencies that I've gotten from Japan. I've got some currencies from China. I've got some currencies from Taiwan. I've got some currencies from Vietnam. Yeah. So actually, man, if you want them, I can just give them over to you, man. For your own personal collection, if that's something that you want.
Hey, man, I would appreciate that. So I definitely, like, if you gather them yourself from your travels or whatnot, them are probably keepsakes for you. So I don't want to. I tend to like to keep, hyperinflated currencies, and then currencies whenever I do some traveling, I bring some of them back too. So if you had some notes laying around and you wanted to get rid of them, I ain't gonna tell you no. But if they things you gather for your collection, go ahead and do you, man. I don't want to take away from your stash.
man, look, man, you can look, bro. It's just paper to me, man, and I was either gonna give them back or we trade them in for a different currency. I have my own collection. But,
fair
man,
enough.
Look, you can. I mean, if you want them, you can have them, man. How about this? I'll trade you those currencies for like an ounce of silver.
No, I don't think that. I think I'll stick to my weight, my friend. This is a little bit more valuable than some papers, because those papers are, as I mentioned from my video title, they're historical artifacts. So they're like, for me, 10, 20, 30 years, if they're still in good condition, look at and just reminisce on how everything went haywire, and just be able to tell some good stories down the line about what happened, and hopefully we get through it in one piece rather. But yeah, this is just a piece of history, man. Because each note to me tell a story. Like the rights notes I have, I'm thinking about them things, man. Like, I have a couple different issues of notes. Like I got a note that it was issued on like just like literally like not a napkin, but something that was not a legal tender issue type of note. That's how much they was printing them things, man. So somebody got that note as their day's wage or something, man, and they got rid of that thing so fast, and here it is 80-some years later. I got it just because it's history, man. It's like people put their heart, sweat, and tears in that paper, man, and it hurts more than it helps in the long run. So, but hey, man, I appreciate you calling in, boss man. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Take it, man.
All right, have a good one. Yeah, man, that's good talk right there, man. I appreciate the back and forth, man. And that's the thing, you know, at the end of the day, war is never a pretty situation just because of the long-term effects. It'd be different if war was like you go in. Every war has a false pretense to it anyway. You know, we're told initial story, but yet really it's because somebody on the back end want to make some money or want to you know, steal this or steal that. And so we're told this story that we got to go in and save the free world. You know we're not really saving anybody down there. We're stealing. You know, the U.S. government is basically going to steal natural resources from that country and whatever else they want in the name of democracy. And so, yeah, man, it's hard. It's one of the things what's hard, but yet, unfortunately, something will happen. And I think Maduro's days, unless he decides to call it quit, will be numbered, unfortunately. But that is what it is, man. But I want to give a shout out to Mr. James. Apologize. James 5346, if you're still online, my friend, appreciate you for our love offering. It says, at this rate, we won't be able to pay the interest on the national debt in 20 years, and America will officially be destroyed by gold, by silver, and food. 100%, man. 100%. Get your weight up, people. So with that being the case, we're done for this evening. It was a great back and forth, close to an hour. And so as always, if you guys have enjoyed the back and forth, don't be afraid to hit the thumbs up button. What that does is basically let other people find out what we're doing over here in the RTD community, and it helps bring more people into this circle, man, because a lot of people need this information and just need dialogue to go back and forth and bounce ideas off each other. So that's what we get a chance to do here and share our thoughts and opinions, because no one's wrong here. Everyone has a unique opinion, and this is an opportunity for you to share your voice. So as always, you got some free resources over here that you guys to take advantage of, especially if you're new to the channel and you're either questioning about the Rethinking a Dollar message. You know, visit the rethinkingadollar.com and find out what this is all about. And more importantly, for those that want to get their weight up, the RTD Gold team is growing, so you guys are welcome to join that, because starting next week, I'm going to be doing more giveaways, and so you have to be a part of the team in order to get your weight up in gold. So the goal is to invest back into the community, and that's what I'm going to do, man. I'm going to get you guys some gold in your hands. And so what we got here, I got my little silver here. You know, I got my cash gold. Got me some gold. So I keep stuff stacked up just to, you know, let you guys know that, you know, I'm not just talking and I'm doing it. So I want to definitely, you know, be a blessing to you guys as well as you guys being a blessing to me. So that being the case, we're done for this evening. It's been a fun. Peace. Good night. Have a good evening. See you guys tomorrow night.